Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of To The Point with me, Frank Pereira. Apart from the polls in Bihar, the last 1 month has seen some heated debates on several issues like the Dadri lynching and its aftermath, the RSS chief's comments on reservation, cancellation of events of Ghulam Ali and the Shiv Sainik's rampage, just to name a few. To talk about that and many other issues like India's foreign policy and economic policies, I have with me on the program former diplomat and senior Congress leader, Mr. Shankar Aiyar. Mr. Aiyar, welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. Let's first talk about the polls in Bihar. What is your internal assessment of what's happening in Bihar?
I don't know about my internal assessment. I can give you a personal assessment. The personal assessment is that at the start, it looked as if the BJP had the advantage. Then it seemed as if the two sides were drawing level. But over the last week, 10 days, increasingly evidence is coming in that it's actually the JDU and its allies who are overtaking the BJP. So I'm still hoping, but not predicting, a defeat for the BJP. That would be a tremendous morale booster for the country, because the BJP's behavior, especially in the last 50 days or so of the 500 days it's been in power, has been disgraceful.
We'll talk about the last 50 days in detail in just a bit, but let's finish off with the Bihar first. 41 seats have been given to the Congress in Bihar. Some pollsters say that it is not warranted because of the kind of performances that the Congress has put in over the last decade or so. Do you believe so? Do you believe it's right?
Other polls indicate that we may win half of those 40 seats. I mean, if we do, it will be congratulations to Rahul Gandhi and something of a miracle. But I find it difficult to have confidence that that is, in fact, the number of seats that we'll get, owing to what you just mentioned, that ever since Bhagwat Jha Azad, 25 years ago, we seem to have somehow lost the plot in Bihar. But perhaps we are now discovering the way back.
You seem to be losing the plot all across the country because there are only 10 states, 10 small states where the Congress is in power directly or through an alliance, the biggest of them being Karnataka, which has about 28 MP seats. So what's happening to the Congress? It seems to be crumbling at the moment.
I think on the contrary, it had crumbled. It's now in a process of rejuvenation. I'm absolutely sure that even as the BJP bounced from 2 seats in 1984 to a majority on its own in 2014, if they can do it, I don't see any reason why the Congress cannot, especially as the Congress is the natural party of governance. And we don't have to do very much to win our position back, because the BJP is doing all it can to lose the position it has.
So the BJP is, the Congress isn't doing much, but the BJP is doing everything to lose what it has, is what you're saying at the moment.
You hit it on the head.
We'll talk about that also in detail, but one final question on the Congress and, the elevation of the Vice President, the present Vice President Rahul Gandhi to be the AICC chief. There's been much talk over the last 1 year that, he's going to be elevated now, maybe in a couple of months, but we've not actually seen that step being taken concretely. What seems to be the problem?
I don't know. Certainly Mrs. Gandhi, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, is in good health. She's in command of the party. She's running the show. She has the time and the energy to do so. So there's no great compulsion that she must quit now.
But is Rahul ready?
And obviously Rahul will be ready when she's ready to quit. Otherwise it will be a coup d'etat from below. So I think the mother and the son have an excellent understanding between themselves, and they will decide the modalities and the timings of the succession.
Then more recently, in the last couple of days, we've seen in the papers that, one of a close aide of Indira Gandhi, the former Prime Minister of India, who came out and said that, she wanted Priyanka Gandhi to be her heir sometime in the future. And, there was much talk about that. Is there any kind of talk within the party?
For once, I'm on the same page as the Congress party, because the Congress spokesman has said that we are not privy to any conversation that Mr. Fotedar might have had with Indira Gandhi, and that's all I can say. I am not privy to that conversation either. I had certainly not heard this before. It's only in today's newspapers that I've seen this for the first time.
Let's move forward and talk about some of those incidents that you were talking about, the last 50 days, beginning with the Dadri lynching and, everything else that followed after that. What do you think led to that incident? Could that incident have been handled better, and could the aftermath also have been controlled?
It's not an accident and it's not an incident. It is part of an unfolding pattern. For about 90 years ago, in 1925, when the RSS was formed, and a little before that, the Hindu Mahasabha was formed, and in tandem, one a cultural organization and one a political organization, did nothing for fighting for the independence of the country, but had a firm idea of what they wanted to do with a free India once we became free. And that was to create a Hindu Rashtra. They have not waited 90 years in order to become clones of the Congress. They have their ideology, they have their objectives, and those objectives have been clearly spelt out over the last 9 decades. We have a prime minister who became a pracharak almost as soon as he ceased being a toddler. And therefore, these are dedicated RSS men who wish to construct this country in the image which was created for them by people like Hedgewar and Golwalkar. So, I am not taken in by all this talk about development. Nobody is against development. And what's so great about Modi talking about development? We've been talking about development for the last 70 years. What is new in the BJP coming to power on its own is that for the first time, they've got a window of opportunity. I think they're realistic enough to recognize that that window of opportunity is for 5 years. And that 5 years from now, they could well be out of power. So within these 5 years, they have to move definitively in the direction of ceasing of this country ceasing to be a secular republic and becoming a Hindu Raj. And therefore, all these stray incidents are not isolated one from the other. They fall into a pattern. There is a logical objective towards which they're going. And I'm so glad that the brightest public intellectuals in India, who are the Sahitya Academy winners, that they have separately but now collectively, earlier separately, but now collectively, got together to warn the country of the direction in which it is being subtly taken by the forces of Hindutva and how we must prevent this terrible tragedy from overtaking the nation.
But to the BJP's defense and the Prime Minister's defense, the Prime Minister has addressed the issue. He's spoken about it.
How long did it take him to get there?
Mr. Aiyar, let me just complete. The leaders who made these inflammatory speeches too were pulled up by Amit Shah, and they were called to a meeting. So you don't buy that?
I don't buy it because the newspapers tell me that one of those sadhus, who they have serried ranks of sadhus and sadhvis, one of them came out along with that curious character Shrom and announced that Amit Shah looked at me and I looked at him, and that's all that happened. So why would I take any of this seriously? And what is the point of pulling up these people now? They should have been pulled up at the start, but they can't be, because they are the expression of the fundamental values of people like Amit Shah and Narendra Modi. They represent the real agenda, and therefore there will be this pretense of trying to rein them in. But do you think this Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti has been reined in? That Giriraj Kishore Acharya has been reined in? That Yogi Adityanath has been reined in? No, they've all been deliberately brought into parliament in order to promote an agenda which is 90 years old.
But they've been given the mandate by the people.
Oh, sure, they've got the mandate of the people. But having got the mandate of the people, they are unfolding their own agenda. And what I'm trying to tell you is that the agenda that they actually have was not the agenda on which they secured the mandate of the people. Ask them. They say, no. We got the mandate from our development program. What development? Is India any different today to what it was 500 days ago? Not at all. But is India different when it comes to the polity of the country? Yes, because forces whom we'd never heard of before, these Acharya, Giriraj Kishores and others, obscure characters, they have now become the front rank of the Hindutva forces. And although there is a pretense of reining them in, the fact is that nothing is being done to them to stop them from continuing with their nefarious objectives.
You know, on the other hand, you have the Shiv Sainiks and what they've been doing in Mumbai and Maharashtra. We saw what happened to Sudhindra Kulkarni. We saw what happened to the Ghulam Ali concerts. And now, of course, cricket empire. It's even seeped into sports now, where a cricket empire had to be, asked to go back to Pakistan because he could not umpire in the match there in Maharashtra. So what is your take on the entire thing that's happening there?
Well, these are thugs. I have been the victim of, or the objective of their hatred back at the time when I removed Savarkar's plaque and put in Mahatma Gandhi's at the Flame of Freedom in the cellular jail at Port Blair back in 2005. So I have experienced at first hand the Gundaism, which is characteristic of not just the Shiv Sena, of the partner of the BJP government in Maharashtra. This is not a political party or a load of fringe lunatics. They are running the government of Maharashtra along with the BJP. And the BJP could not have formed the government in Maharashtra without these people. It therefore is a deliberate decision of the BJP to bring on board the most extremist element of the Hindutva forces, give them a certain governmental respectability and unleash them upon this country.
You know, on that note, we'll slip into a short break, but we'll talk to Mr. Shankar Aiyar on the other side about the much talked about foreign policy and economic policy of the government. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television in conversation with Congress leader, Mr. Shankar Aiyar. Mr. Aiyar, you know, the Prime Minister's foreign policy or the government's foreign policy has been hailed, has been talked about in the press, widely spoken about in the press. But has that bubble burst in the recent past?
It never grew as far as I was concerned. There's utter confusion. Please don't confuse securing frequent flyer miles with foreign policy. And please don't confuse addressing huge groups of NRIs, all of whom are supporters of the BJP, with foreign policy. This is Indian policy being carried abroad. And it's disgraceful that an Indian Prime Minister should go abroad and carry domestic politics with him and abuse in the most personal terms the leader of the main opposition party. And he does this not once, not twice, but again and again and again and again. I think it's disgusting. So as far as these Madison Square jamborees that he holds are concerned, I think it lowers the image of this country. And the proof of it is that his recent visit to the United States of America, which was played up so much in the Indian press, it received no attention whatsoever in the American media. The American media were concerned with the Pope. The American media were concerned with President Xi of China. They had no time at all for the Indian Prime Minister. And as for these tutu meme between Indians and Pakistanis in the UN, it is the biggest bore subject that there is. And the insult that was delivered by the Pakistanis fielding a first secretary or a councillor in order to rebut what Sushma Swaraj had said. Why do we allow ourselves to get into this kind of a position? I don't see, as far as Pakistan policy is concerned, it's a tissue of inconsistencies. But before I come to Pakistan, let's take Nepal. Is this the way to behave with a neighboring small country? You've driven them into the hands of the Chinese, and all in order to win the Bihar polls. Because the Madhesis of the Tarai region of Nepal have blood relations with people, particularly in northern Bihar. And in order to win an election, you wreck your relationship with a friendly neighbor. Mr. Modi tried to do this earlier last November when he tried to address a public meeting in Janakpur. And the Nepalese spotted what his game was. His game was to reconvert Nepal into a Hindu Rashtra so that it becomes an exemplar for India to become a Hindu Rashtra. And they stopped him. They said, you can't do it. Of course, they were polite. They said, there are security problems. But what they meant was stop interfering in our affairs. And this man has the gall to send the foreign secretary as a special envoy to tell the Nepalese, after they have fixed the date on which they are going to proclaim the constitution, to postpone that date. Who does he think he is? The king, does he think he's the king of Nepal?
How should this situation have been handled and how
Very quietly, very diplomatically. What we should have done is to tell the Nepalese that we welcome, that word was very important, that we welcome their having created a constitution 2 years less than it took Pakistan to create its first constitution, and therefore has saved itself from the danger of a military coup or a military takeover. We should have congratulated them, and we should have said that we are very encouraged by the statements that you have made, that over the course of the next 2.5 years, when the current assembly will continue to run, that you will undertake the further steps required in the constitution to give the Madhesis and the Tarus and the Dalits and the Janjatis of the Tarai region a somewhat fairer deal than they have got already. But when you compare the Nepal constitution even with the Indian constitution, it's such a major achievement that instead of bullying them, we should have been felicitating
Are
them.
you saying then the approach used by the UPA government, to stay away, where the Prime Minister did not visit Nepal over a period of 10 years and let the, Nepalese constitution come up on its own and blossom on its own, do you believe that that was the method that should have been used?
It was the only sensible thing to do. Don't forget, we loom over Nepal. It's smaller than many Indian states. But on the other side of the Himalayas, the Chinese also loom over Nepal. And the major diplomatic challenge that we have is that given the relations we've had with Nepal ever since we assisted the monarchy in coming back to power and overthrowing the Ranas, I'm talking about the period 1948, 49, 50 and into 51. In that period, we established a very special relationship with Nepal. And ever since then, there have been forces in Nepal, particularly in the foothills of Nepal, I'm talking of the foothills of the Himalayas, not the Tarai region, who have been trying to see whether they couldn't counterbalance India with a relationship with China. Now, we've given them every opportunity to do so. The Nepalese have greatly been relieved at the welcome that the Chinese have extended to their new constitution.
So have we pushed Nepal closer towards China then?
That is Mr. Modi's great foreign policy achievement.
What about Pakistan? Should we talk to Pakistan? Is the approach to Pakistan the right one that we are using right now?
Well, you can either talk to Pakistan or not talk to Pakistan.
Doesn't matter.
Not like Mr. Modi, who sometimes gets the itch to talk to Pakistan and then starts fidgeting at the itch and chucks them out. Why did he invite Nawaz Sharif in May last year? Weren't there terrorist activities going on then? Wasn't the ceasefire line being violated? Why did he invite him? Why did he say that he would restart the foreign secretary's dialogue and then stopped it on a completely irrelevant issue?
But some kind of dialogue is necessary, because if you don't talk at all, how are you going to settle issues? And also, the right kind of message needed to be sent to Pakistan.
Why
because
tell
Pakistan,
me? Please tell Mr. Modi. I am in complete agreement with you. Here is a man who starts, then stops on an irrelevant issue of the Pakistanis talking to the Hurriyat. They've been talking to them for 15 years. It has done them no good. It's done us no harm. He just brings in this in at the last moment and breaks off the dialogue. Then he goes to UFA and produces a completely ill-considered joint communique. And he thinks that he can bully the Pakistanis into coming to the negotiating table on his terms. And when the Pakistanis make clear that they are a sovereign nation who have got their own sovereign national interests, he then ensures that the conversation breaks down. And then he thinks that waving to Nawaz Sharif in the UN constitutes foreign policy. The man doesn't know his left hand from his right hand when it comes to foreign policy. All he knows is have ticket, will travel. And choose, call his advisors कि ये मनमोहन सिंह कहाँ नहीं गए, अब बताओ, और फिर लिख देते हैं कि हमें भी वहाँ जाना है. Is this foreign policy or is this childishness of the first order?
But we also reached out to Palestine and Israel as well. It was historic. It was termed as a very historic visit. It's not happened ever before, and this is the first time that something like that.
Should it have happened? Should it have happened? What the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians is precisely what Modi did to the Muslims in 2002 in Gujarat. And it's on a continuing basis. Al-Nakba, the catastrophe, dates back to 1948. and has been continued relentlessly ever since then. It is the narrow-minded religious nationalism of the Israelis, especially of Mr. Netanyahu, that appeals so much to Narendra Modi. And that is why I think this is the wrong time and the wrong circumstances in which to abandon virtually the Palestinians and start embracing the Israelis. I use the word abandoned advisedly because on the report that was made of what happened in 2014, India voted against. We didn't even abstain. We voted against any action being taken. Is that the India of Jawaharlal Nehru? No, because Modi is no Nehru. Modi is a Hindutva fanatic, and he is discovered in Israel as a Zionist fanatic friend. And therefore, I regard this as the most dangerous development in our relations with West Asia.
Let's move on and talk about India's economic policy. Now, the Congress has been very critical of the policy, but it has been hailed by some of the Western agencies. For instance, the US also, in fact, very recently said that it was good, and at a time of a slowdown, the Indian economy is actually doing well.
Yeah. We have such a golden opportunity. Oil prices have crashed. Commodity prices have crashed. Our rupee should be in the 40s. It's lower than it ever was under the UPA. Please explain this paradox. If our economy is doing as well as American cheerleaders are making out, why aren't they bringing their money in here? Why aren't they putting their money where their mouth is? This is all tall talk meant to appease, a character from the third world who is fetched up there and says that I have a 56-inch chest. So they pin a few medals on it. But there is some increase in foreign investment, but that's because of policies that have been followed since 1991 by the Congress
But the Congress
party.
also has thrown a spanner in the works as far as the BJP is concerned, because, you've not allowed the parliament to function and thereby withholding some of their key reform bills like the land bill as well as the 122nd amendment bill, which is the GST.
I would like to congratulate Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party and myself for having blocked that stupid land acquisition ordinance, because even the BJP's own ranks, let alone its allies and supporters, have risen in protest against what Modi was dictatorially attempting to do in December last year when he had that ordinance passed. So we have been validated and vindicated by the decision of the present government to not renew, after 3 renewals, the ordinance that they had proclaimed on that. As regards the goods and services tax, I was one of the 3 members of the Congress party in the select committee that was set up. We raised a number of valid objections. Now, any sensible government which regards that legislation as important would reach out to us, discuss it with us, to see what kind of compromises we might arrive at, which would enable everybody to pass the bill. They say, but you brought the bill in. Yeah, we brought the 2011 bill. They brought in the 2015 bill. 2014 bill.
Yes.
They brought in the 2014 bill, which was in several significant respects not only different to the 2011 bill, but had not taken into consideration certain very important developments. The most important of which is that on the basis of the Mukherjee bill, as I will call the Congress bill, the rate, what is called the revenue neutral rate of the GST would have been about 16%. Now, because of all the exceptions they made, especially of alcohol, it has gone up to 27 or 28%. Now, how can you have a just economy in which direct taxes are 33% and indirect taxes are 28%? So we wanted to talk to them about this.
So are you saying then in the winter session of Parliament also that you're not going to let it go
How
through?
do I know? Mr. Jaitley has allowed the whole of the summer to pass, talking neither to Chidambaram, nor talking to Sonia Gandhi, nor talking to me, nor talking to Jairam Ramesh, nor talking to anybody who is concerned with these matters.
So is there going to be a logjam in the winter session as well?
Khuda jane, or shall I say Arun Jaitley jane?
All right. On that note, we are completely out of time. We'll have to call it a wrap. Thank you so much, Mr. Shankar Aiyar, for joining me on the program. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next time. Bye-bye.